Hello and welcome back to the channel about hardware, software and other materials. This year I'll begin with a how-to video. How to fix a motherboard that isn't responding. To be specific, this is my main computer. It's already more than 8 years old. Yeah, that's how long I've been using this computer. It's a Charcoon case. Inside is a Gigabyte GA-H110M S2H. It has two PCI Express 2.0 1-speed slots and one PCI Express 3.0 16-speed slot. And the mobile chipset is Intel H110. CPU, an Intel i7-6700 at 3.40 GHz. And I use 2 times 4 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. The video card is a GeForce GTX 950 with 2 gigabytes of memory. Okay, enough about specs. These specs actually have nothing to do with the problem. The cause of the problem is probably that I left a USB loading device inside the PC while I turned off the computer. This somehow caused the current flowing into the wrong direction and messing up my motherboard. So when I later tried to turn on the computer again that day, it didn't boot. I'll directly give a tip to prevent this from happening to anybody else. Don't leave any USBs plugged into your computer that use the USB port to load a battery or a smartphone. Or don't turn off your computer at all. That's also an option. I first opened the case and turned on the PC and saw that the fan of the power supply wasn't spinning. Could it be a broken power supply? The first action is to test the power supply. You can unplug the power supply from the motherboard and connect the green wired connector to the black ground connector. You can see this in 1,000 other videos on YouTube. The power supply works fine. Another thing I discovered while I was using another power supply on my motherboard was that the fan of the power supply wasn't spinning, but there still comes power out of it. When I plug a USB with a LED in the USB port, it lights up. The motherboard still supplies 5 voltage power, but it doesn't give a full activation signal to the power supply. Then there must be something wrong with the BIOS. I removed the battery and then looked for the 2 pins for clearing the BIOS. That means resetting the BIOS to its default settings. You can reset the BIOS with a screwdriver by connecting the 2 pins by holding the screwdriver against the 2 for about 5 seconds. I used a jumper to be sure the BIOS is really cleared. Don't leave it in there before you start up the system again. I removed it after 30 seconds. Now I create a minimal motherboard setup. I unplugged one SATA hard disk drive. One SATA SSD remains. I put the battery back in its socket. I reconnect the power supply. It was quite finicky because I had to place an extra fan on the other side of the case. I also removed one 4 GB RAM stick. I reconnected the power cable. I plugged the HDMI cable into the HDMI port of the motherboard itself, not of my video card. And I plugged in the mouse and the keyboard USBs. Time to test the system. Turn on the power and then turn on the machine.
It boots. What the hell? Checking signal. It actually boots.
I have no video signal, but the CPU fan is spinning and there are some LEDs running on my motherboard.
Just resetting the BIOS saved my motherboard.
For the real moment of truth, I reinstalled my video card and plugged everything back into the motherboard.
Wow, I never seen this one before. Hear that sound. And it's
As you look at the date this happened, Monday the 23rd of December, I was relieved I still had a working computer before Christmas. The video card made a lot of noise. Luckily, this was only after this first boot. After this, it ran at its normal noise level. I am planning on buying a new computer this year. I can look for parts at my own pace, and I don't have to panic because I lost my main computer. I hope I can help somebody with this specific motherboard situation. No boot, but 5 volts coming from the USB port. And maybe you've had the same problem after leaving a USB loading device in your computer. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to. Thanks for watching. As always, the next video can be something completely different. Bye!